Chosen one. 7 signs your spiritual awakening is over. It's time to use your powers. You were born with wings, so why would you choose to crawl through life? Rumi, if you've been walking the winding path of awakening, searching endlessly for signs, questioning the depth of your purpose, and courageously doing the deep inner work that not everyone dares to face, this message was written for you. Have you ever wondered if there comes a point when all the seeking must finally give way to living? The journey of awakening was never designed to stretch on forever. At some point, the endless searching, the doubts, the restless questions must evolve into something greater, into the embodiment of what you've discovered. And that moment, for many of you, is now. In today's message on spiritual wisdom, we're uncovering 7 powerful signs that your awakening is complete and that it is time to rise into your true power. So ask yourself, are you ready to stop waiting and start becoming? Let us know in the comments which of these signs resonates most deeply with you in this very season of your life. And if you feel the stirrings of this truth, don't forget to like and subscribe, because stepping into your next chapter begins with claiming it. The first sign is simple but life-changing. The awakening has ended, and now the mission begins. You did not awaken just to wander endlessly through the landscapes of seeking, always hoping for yet another clue. No, the spiritual awakening you experienced was never meant to be the final destination. It was only your initiation. A door cracked open to let you see beyond the veil of illusion, and now the universe is urging you to step fully into the light of your true purpose. You've read the books, followed the signs, healed wounds, and stripped away the masks you once wore. But awakening itself is not the end. It is the threshold. It is the place where your mission begins. Yet so many chosen ones become trapped in the comfort of awakening. They cling to the process as though it were the destination itself. They keep searching, more answers, more synchronicities, more messages to confirm what they already feel deep within. But the truth is this: the universe does not pour out endless confirmations. Instead, it gives you glimpses, a fleeting window, a gentle nudge. And this moment right now, that nudge is here. You have already seen through the illusion. The veil has lifted. The layers of false identity have fallen away. What more are you waiting for? The world does not need you to be flawless. It needs you to be present, awake, aware, and aligned. You are entrusted with insight for a reason. Every heartbreak, every night of loneliness, every moment when your old self crumbled, these were not random. They were preparing you for this exact point in time. And now, that quiet knowing within, the one that never shouts but steadily insists, is revealing itself as your greatest power. The inner voice that whispers of peace, of truth, of boldness. That is the call of your mission, pulling you forward. Awakening is not where your journey ends. It's where your mission begins. You are not just a seeker anymore. You are a carrier of light, a vessel for truth, a walking embodiment of divine wisdom. And now the universe leans in with a question. Will you truly use what you've learned, or will you keep hoarding wisdom like a collector of trinkets? Hidden away and never put into practice. Spiritual alignment is not meant to be passive. It is intentional. It is purposeful. You are not here simply to feel enlightened, floating above life without ever touching it. You are here to create, to awaken others, to speak even when silence feels easier, to build what doesn't yet exist. There is no more waiting, no more asking for permission, no more standing on the sidelines. You have already received the signs. You have already been shown who you are. You have already walked through fire, faced the storm, and discovered that you can endure. The illusions that once kept you bound no longer have the same grip. Fear no longer fits you. It feels like clothing you've outgrown. The craving for external validation has burned away, leaving only the pure essence of your true self, ready, capable, and deeply needed. This is the sacred shift, from observation into participation, from awareness into embodiment, from vision into movement. You are the one meant to lead, not because you demanded the role, but because your soul was chosen for it. You are no longer lost in awakening. You are aligned in action now. And the universe is not indifferent. It is watching, waiting, ready to respond the very moment you step forward in full trust. Are you ready to step into your true mission? If your awakening has prepared you for this alignment, declare it. Comment below, "I am ready to serve," and let your words inspire others to rise into their own purpose. 2. The urgency of this moment. The restlessness you've been feeling is not random. It is not anxiety. It is not confusion. It is your soul recognizing the threshold of transformation right beneath your feet. That unease isn't a warning. It's a sacred signal, reminding you that your spiritual awakening is no longer just a process. It has become a calling. The time for endless questions, for gathering teachings, for staying in preparation mode has already passed. You've collected the wisdom. You've carried it through heartbreaks, through the quiet weight of solitude, through sleepless nights of doubt, followed by still mornings of clarity. Every piece of it was leading you here. But here's the truth. Awakening is not meant to last forever. It was never designed to be your final destination. It was always your training ground. Many remain stuck in the cycle of seeking, clinging to it because it feels safe, because the familiar uncertainty is easier than stepping into responsibility. But the chosen ones know when it is time to move forward, not by force, but by aligning completely with who they have become. You did not come here merely to feel enlightened. You came to live as enlightenment in motion. That means speaking your truth when it shakes the room, trusting your inner knowing above the noise of the world, and embodying the peace, the strength, and the wisdom that awakening has revealed to you. You came to live as enlightenment in action. This is the moment where you step into mastery, not through perfection, but through presence. In today's world, it's easy to get caught in the endless chase for more knowledge, more signs, more confirmations. But let's be honest, isn't that constant reaching often just a subtle form of self-doubt? The truth is, you don't need another guru, another message, or another meditation to prove you are ready. You are ready because you are here. You are ready because breath still flows through you, steady and alive. You are ready because life itself is calling you to serve, to lead, to create, to be now. Imagine someone who trains for years, yet never shows up to the race. At some point, the endless preparation stops being growth and becomes delay. The identity of the seeker can quietly turn into a shield, one that keeps the doer, the healer, and the leader from stepping forward. But you are not here to hide anymore. You are here to rise, to stand, to become. The most powerful version of yourself is not waiting in some distant future. It is already within you, the part of you that dares to act with purpose today. That is the difference between knowing the light and being the light, between understanding love and actually walking in love, between talking about alignment and truly living aligned. Remember, the hardest part is already behind you. You've awakened. You've seen the truth. Now the only question left is this: will you live it? Your power has never been in the books, teachings, or knowledge you collected. It has always been in the embodiment of that knowledge. That is how timelines shift. That is how others are inspired. That is how you fulfill the mission you were sent here to complete. The urgency you feel right now is not a weight pressing on you. It is divine presence. The universe is not rushing you. It is reminding you. Every step of your life has been preparing you for this exact moment. So do not hesitate. If you feel the pull of something greater, it is because your time has come. No more waiting. No more hiding. Speak it out. Declare it boldly. Comment below. I'm ready to become who I truly am. If you feel the urgency of stepping fully into your power. 3. Awakening was meant to shake and rebuild you. Awakening was never designed to be a permanent state. Its purpose was always to burn away what was false, the masks, the cravings for validation, the fears programmed into you that were never yours to carry. Awakening came to shake your very foundation, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you from the soul up. You were never meant to remain in the fire forever. You were meant to walk through it, rise from it, and carry its light into the world. Yet many become stuck, mistaking the path of awakening for the destination itself. They keep reading, listening, meditating, waiting for some ultimate external sign to confirm that they are finally ready. But here's the truth. That sign has always been within you. The endless cycle of seeking can easily turn into a trap, a distraction cleverly disguised as spiritual growth. The constant seeking becomes a trap, a distraction dressed up as spiritual growth. There comes a point when you must stop consuming and start creating. You didn't awaken just to sit in stillness. You awakened to move energy, to shift realities, to live fully in alignment with the truth you now know. Your soul was never meant to be a passive student of wisdom, sitting quietly on the sidelines. It came here to apply what it has learned. All the knowledge you've absorbed, all the pain you've processed, all the illusions you've shed. These were never the end goal. They were your preparation, your training ground. You are not here only to hold light. You are here to embody it, to let it flow through you like breath, action, and life. It's time to become the very message you've been listening to, the healing you've been chasing, the strength you've been searching for. You are the answer to someone else's prayer. You are the light at the end of someone else's tunnel. But the world cannot receive what you refuse to release. Creation is your next step, your natural evolution. Whether it is writing, speaking, leading, building, or simply showing up in your full authenticity, this is how your power activates. This is how your gifts stop being ideas and become impact. This is how you shift from awakening to embodiment. This is how you move from knowing the truth to living it. And yes, the fear will still whisper. It will tell you that you're not ready, that you need more time. But readiness isn't a feeling, it's a choice. The ego seeks perfection. The soul moves with purpose. You are ready because you've been called. You are ready because you've walked through fire and survived the refining. You are ready because the world needs what you carry. So, no more waiting. No more questioning. No more shrinking to fit an old version of yourself that no longer exists. Awakening shook you for a reason, but the shaking is done. It's time to step forward, to use your power, to become the embodiment of everything you've learned. The season of seeking is over. The season of becoming has begun. If this message stirs something inside you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. It's time to stop consuming and start creating your truth. Comment below, "I'm ready to rise and build my true self." 4. You were chosen for a purpose. You were chosen for a purpose. Not by coincidence, not by accident, but by divine intention. Your awakening wasn't random. It was a spiritual assignment, a call to remember who you truly are beneath the noise and distractions of this world. You didn't just wake up to feel enlightened. You woke up to become a force of transformation, to be part of something far greater than yourself. The spiritual shift happening across the planet isn't just something you're meant to observe, it's something you're meant to help lead. And this leadership does not come from ego, power, or control. It comes from alignment, embodiment, and courage. You were called because your soul said yes, long before your mind could understand what that meant. You were never meant to wait for angels, guides, or mentors to hand you the answers. They are here, yes, but their role is to nudge you, to whisper reminders, not to carry you. Their whispers can awaken you, but they cannot act on your behalf. Only you can do that. Only you can rise and stand in the space you were created to fill. Only you can say, "I am ready to rise." The chosen ones are not chosen to be passive. They are chosen to step forward, especially when it's inconvenient, to answer the call with action rather than hesitation, to walk in truth when the world prefers illusion, to shine when darkness demands silence. You're not here to wait for signs. You're here to be the sign. There comes a moment in every journey when learning must give way to doing, when knowing must finally transform into becoming. And for you, this is that moment. You've studied the lessons, witnessed the synchronicities, endured the fire of growth and transformation. Now the question is no longer, what is my purpose? But rather, will I live it? The world today is aching for those who are not only spiritually awake, but also spiritually active. Not perfect, not all-knowing, but available, willing to use their voice, their energy, and their presence as living vessels of light. You don't have to save the entire world, but you are called to show up for the part of it that has been entrusted to you. Living your purpose is not about striving, forcing, or endlessly searching. It is about surrendering. Surrendering to the truth that has always lived inside you. When you stop waiting for the right time and begin walking in divine time, something shifts. Doors open effortlessly. Clarity finds you without struggle. People are moved by your energy because it is real, authentic, and unpolished, not rehearsed. You were chosen because you were built for this very path. Your pain taught you empathy. Your seasons of isolation sharpened your discernment. Your setbacks carved resilience into your bones. You are not behind. You are exactly on schedule. No one else can activate your mission. No one else can speak your truth. This responsibility is sacred. You were not chosen to remain hidden. You were chosen to embody the shift. The awakening was never meant to be the end. It was only the beginning. Now it is time to rise and to become what you came here to be. If this message stirs something deep within you, leave a comment of faith. I accept my divine purpose. I am ready to rise and fulfill my calling. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a message meant for your awakening. 5. The mission after awakening. Real spiritual maturity is not measured by how many affirmations you repeat or how many hours you sit in meditation. True maturity is embodiment. When your actions mirror your knowing, when your very presence speaks louder than your words, you have already awakened. You've peeled back the layers, seen through illusions, and walked through darkness with only your inner light to guide the way. But now, the real work begins. Living it. Living truthfully. Living powerfully. Living as someone who remembers exactly why they came here in the first place. You are not here to remain stuck in the endless cycle of seeking. You are here to become the message itself, to hold the vibration of your learning so deeply that others feel it before you ever open your mouth. Your power does not lie in how much you know. It lies in how fully you show up. It is revealed in how you remain calm when everything around you shakes, and how you respond to pain without losing your compassion, and how you walk with integrity when no one is watching. This quiet strength is what it means to live your awakening. There was once a woman who, after years of studying every spiritual book she could find, felt her world collapse around her. Her marriage ended, her business failed, her health broke down. Suddenly, all the knowledge she had collected seemed useless. But in that silence, when everything else fell away, she heard the truth rise within. This is the moment your training was for. From then on, she stopped reaching for new answers and began applying what she already knew. She showed up not perfectly, but powerfully, with clarity, with presence. That simple shift changed everything, because she finally realized she wasn't meant to just understand the light. She was meant to be it. The world isn't searching for more talkers or endless voices repeating borrowed truths. It is crying out for those who embody what they believe, those who radiate truth through their very being. The world is waiting for those who don't merely echo wisdom, but who live it. Those who can walk straight into a storm and still remain calm, steady, and centered. And you, too, have been chosen for this. Not to hide your light, but to let it lead. Not to linger in endless doubt, waiting for another confirmation, but to finally trust what has been inside you all along. Every delay, every wound, every lesson was never punishment. It was preparation. Not simply to help you survive, but to shape you into someone who could lead. And now, at last, the mission begins. To know the truth but refuse to live it is, in a way, to betray your own soul. The real initiation was never the awakening itself. It is what you do after awakening that defines you. This moment is your invitation to rise, not someday, but now. To move with purpose, to serve with love, to speak with clarity, to walk with sacred authority. Your journey never ended at awakening. It was only born there. And everything that unfolds next is what you were born for. If this message speaks directly to your soul, declare it aloud. Type, "I'm ready to live the truth," in the comments as an affirmation of your commitment. Remember, the mission after awakening is real, and it always begins with action. Like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so we can continue rising together. 6. The 7 signs that your awakening is complete. The first sign: you no longer feel separate from the universe. The restless search for divinity outside of yourself has ended, because you finally realized it was never out there to begin with. The longing to connect with something greater has dissolved into a deep knowing, an embodied truth, that you are that greatness in human form. This is not an intellectual belief, it's a felt reality. You sense it in the rhythm of your breath, in the stillness between thoughts, in the quiet awareness that watches everything but resists nothing. You feel oneness with all that is, not as a poetic idea, but as a living presence. The trees swaying in the wind, the sound of laughter from strangers, even the silence between words. All of it feels inseparable from you now. You've stopped labeling experiences as good or bad because you've glimpsed the divine thread weaving them together. Peace is no longer something you chase on a distant horizon. It flows from you naturally, quietly, like sunlight spilling through an open window. Resistance melts away. You no longer fight against the unfolding of life because you've tasted the freedom of surrender. The need to prove yourself, to fix everything, to control every outcome has faded. You let go, not in defeat, but in trust. You've awakened to the deeper intelligence that governs all things, and this letting go, far from weakness, is powerful. It creates space for miracles, synchronicities, and alignments that no amount of force could ever produce. You've awakened to the truth that your energy is never passive. It is creative. Every emotion, every intention, every thought is a frequency, and those frequencies shape reality in ways both subtle and profound. You begin to notice how your inner shifts ripple outward, instantly reflecting in your external world like echoes in a mirror. When you are at peace, life unfolds with an almost effortless grace. When you fall into fear, chaos seems to arise all around you. This isn't punishment, it's reflection. Life mirrors what you hold inside, and now you've stepped into a new role. You respond to life as a conscious artist, not a victim of circumstance. The old self, the one that endlessly searched for answers, has dissolved into the quiet yet unshakable power of presence. You no longer crave constant validation, spiritual highs, or dramatic signs to confirm your path. Your presence itself is the sign. You are the miracle you once pleaded for. There is no wall separating you from the universe anymore. Only unity, only flow, only truth. From this sacred space, your purpose begins not in striving or chasing, but in simply being. That is when you know your awakening is complete, not because you suddenly hold all the answers, but because you've stopped asking questions that separate you from the truth already alive within. Sign 2. Your intuition guides you without doubt. You trust your inner voice fully now, in a way you once thought impossible. No longer do you wait for endless signs, seek approval from others, or weigh decisions on carefully crafted lists of pros and cons. You simply know. And this clarity doesn't rise from logic. It flows from alignment. You don't chase certainty anymore, because certainty has taken root within you. It's no longer about confidence in external outcomes, but about confidence in the quiet, knowing that rests deep inside your soul. That knowing doesn't scream, doesn't compete, doesn't demand. It simply speaks, and you listen. Fear no longer decides for you. Confusion no longer clouds your mind. You've outgrown the habit of outsourcing your wisdom because you've realized that your energy speaks louder than your thoughts ever could. Your body even responds before your mind finishes the question. The shift is quiet, almost invisible to others, and yet it changes everything. You don't keep asking, "Is this the right path?" You feel it. You sense the expansion of truth, the contraction of misalignment, and you follow that guidance, not because you're sure of what lies ahead, but because you're sure of yourself. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the need for external validation finally disappears. What replaces it is not arrogance, but peace. A peace that doesn't beg for permission. A peace that moves through uncertainty like water, flowing exactly where it needs to go. You stop chasing signs. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You act because it feels right, not because it looks right. And this, right here, is the power of deep spiritual alignment. It doesn't ask for proof. It simply moves in truth. When you trust your intuition, hesitation loses its grip. A calm decisiveness begins to radiate through your presence. People around you may not fully understand. They may whisper, "You've changed." And they're right. You've stopped performing for a world that once taught you to doubt your inner wisdom. Instead, you've chosen to trust the whisper over the noise. You've chosen the internal compass over the external map. You've stopped asking for directions to a place your soul already knows how to find. This is the transition from awakening to embodiment. Intuition is no longer a fleeting signal. It becomes your leadership. Faith becomes your unshakable foundation. You no longer check 10 times before taking a single step. You simply move. And in that movement, life rearranges itself to meet your energy. This isn't magic. It's spiritual maturity. The strength to move without needing to be convinced. The clarity to know without having to explain. And this is how awakening becomes living truth. The ability to feel aligned and trust it even when it makes no sense to the outside world. This is the quiet strength you now carry. You have graduated from waiting, from questioning, from doubting. Your power lies not in external proofs, but in presence. In listening to the subtle pull that whispers, "This way." That gentle nudge may seem small, yet it holds the weight of destiny. That quiet pull is your path. That gentle nudge is your direction. And you follow, not because it's easy, but because it's true. The truth rarely takes the smoothest road, but it always takes you exactly where you are meant to go. Sign 3. Material desires no longer control you. You no longer chase money, status, or validation, because something deeper inside you has awakened. The old hunger to impress with what you wear, what you own, or how much you earn has dissolved. Your soul no longer feeds on attention. Instead, you seek nourishment in alignment, fulfillment, and authenticity. Material things can still bring you joy, but they no longer define you. They no longer drag you into cycles of overworking, proving, or pretending. You've remembered who you are beyond the brands, the titles, the applause. And that memory of your true essence sets you free. This is the sign of real transformation. When you stop chasing, you start attracting. Isn't that the paradox? The law of attraction doesn't respond to desperation. It responds to vibration. The energy you carry now speaks louder than your words. You've chosen peace over pressure, purpose over possessions. The old version of you needed more just to feel enough. But now, you are enough. with or without more. And from that place of wholeness, abundance flows naturally, like water finding its riverbed. You've discovered that fulfillment isn't measured by what you accumulate, but by how deeply you align. No amount of luxury can compare to the richness of inner peace. No amount of praise can replace the still voice of your spirit, whispering, "I am home." You've realized that manifestation isn't about owning everything. It's about owning your truth. Your energy is the currency now. And when you spend it on what's real, gratitude, growth, presence, the universe multiplies your return in ways effort alone could never achieve. You are no longer a servant to material desires. You are the master of your reality. Your spiritual awakening has taught you to see through illusions, to pierce the glitter of false promises. You now walk with power, but not the kind that shouts or competes. It is a quiet, magnetic power, rooted in detachment and clarity. And because of this, life meets you differently. Opportunities show up not because you hustle endlessly, but because you live in harmony. People feel your calm, your focus, your light, and they are drawn to it as if to a steady flame in the dark. This is freedom. You're no longer running after things, hoping they'll complete you. You're standing still in your truth, and all that's meant for you begins to arrive. You no longer beg for doors to open. They open when you knock with purpose. You no longer sacrifice your peace to keep up. You slow down, and life speeds up in your favor. The more you surrender, the more you receive. Not from force, but from flow. Not from lack, but from alignment. Not from noise, but from stillness. Sign 4. You have embraced solitude and found peace. Silence no longer unsettles you. It empowers you. What once felt like an empty void is now a sacred sanctuary where your spirit breathes and your mind rests. You've begun to honor your energy so deeply that anything misaligned simply can't stay. You no longer tolerate conversations that feel empty or relationships that pull you away from your peace. You don't shrink to fit into old spaces, nor do you pretend to be less so others feel more. This is what spiritual awakening looks like in motion. Real, subtle, yet undeniable. It's the silent refusal to entertain what drains your soul. It's the unseen power of walking away from noise, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. You've outgrown superficiality and stepped into alignment. Now, your vibration speaks before you do. Being alone no longer feels like abandonment. It feels like home, like resting in your own sacred presence. You've stopped seeking constant connection because you've cultivated the most powerful one of all, the connection with yourself. You enjoy your own company. You know now that solitude is not emptiness. It is sacred space, fertile ground where your spirit can breathe. It is in your stillness that new visions are born, in your quiet moments that your true purpose grows louder and clearer. You've reached a state where your inner world is so full, so radiant, that you no longer need external noise to feel alive. You have become magnetic, not by force, but by presence. Solitude has sharpened your discernment, making you precise with your time, intentional with your focus, and deeply protective of your peace. You've learned that every encounter, every word, every thought carries energy, and you alone decide what enters your sacred space. Your boundaries are no longer rigid walls. They have transformed into sacred invitations, allowing in only what is pure, true, and aligned. Your aura is no longer porous. It is powerful, radiant, and steady. You no longer beg to be understood. Instead, you keep evolving, trusting that those who are meant for your frequency will recognize your light without needing explanation. You've stopped chasing and started attracting. You now understand the law of attraction, not as a tool of control, but as a natural reflection of energetic alignment. You do not manifest from desperation. You manifest from peace, from clarity, from presence. Your life itself has become a living prayer, and your solitude has become the altar. In this sacred stillness, manifestation flows as naturally as breath. There is no force, only flow. This is spiritual maturity. This is what it means to awaken and rise. Not in chaos, but in calm. Not in noise, but in knowing. You are no longer searching for peace. You are living as peace. And because of that, your presence now shifts rooms, not by what you say, but by who you have become. Sign 5. You naturally attract people who need your light. People are drawn to you because your energy has become a silent call. You no longer seek validation or attention. Instead, your very presence radiates something real, something pure. It's not about the words you speak, but the frequency you carry. After everything you've been through, the lessons, the healing, the shedding of false layers, you now emit a vibration that speaks louder than any voice. Others can feel it. They may not understand why they feel safe around you, or why they suddenly share their deepest truths in your presence. But something about you feels like home, like truth, like light. That's because you've become a vessel for something greater. In a world where most are still asleep, that alone makes you magnetic. As your light expands and deepens, you begin to notice a pattern, a rhythm to the connections forming around you. The people entering your life are no longer random strangers passing through. They are reflections, mirrors, messengers of a greater design. Some walk alongside you for a while because their soul resonates with your path, feeling the harmony of your vibration. Others arrive carrying chaos in their hearts, drawn unconsciously to a peace they haven't yet earned or even named. And then there are those who cannot explain why they are drawn to you at all. They just know that your presence soothes something inside them, as if they've found water after wandering a desert. That's what happens when your spiritual awakening is complete. You stop needing answers, and you start becoming one. You attract not because you try, but because you are. Energy does not lie, and yours now speaks before you do. But the truth is, not everyone who is drawn to your light is ready for it, and not everyone is worthy of it. Some come to take, to drain, to feed off the peace you've built with blood, sweat, and sacred tears. These are the ones who haven't yet faced themselves. They want your frequency without doing the work to raise their own. This is why your next step, now that your awakening has matured, is to master spiritual boundaries. You cannot pour endlessly into everyone. Your light is powerful, but it's also sacred. And sacred things must be protected. You must learn to say no, to walk away, to shield your peace like a priceless treasure. Because it is. There was once a woman who gave all of herself to everyone, friends, students, even strangers. Her presence felt healing to others, and they would come to her uninvited, desperate for light and comfort. At first, she thought this was her purpose, to be the light for others. But over time, she began to feel drained, disconnected, even resentful. She learned the hard truth: being the light doesn't mean you set yourself on fire to keep others warm. In time, she chose differently. She learned to protect her energy, to give only from a place of overflow, not from obligation. And from that sacred space, her light didn't fade. It grew stronger, clearer, and even more magnetic. You've reached that point now. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to be the frequency that reminds others of their own power. Your energy has become a transmission, a signal for those ready to rise. So guard it, own it, and understand this. Your presence is no longer just a gift. It's an invitation, but only those with the courage to honor it should be allowed through the door. Sign 6. You can see through deception and illusions. You now sense deception with a kind of spiritual precision that wasn't available to you before. Lies feel heavy in the air. Manipulation stands out like flashing lights in a dark street. Even the subtle illusions embedded in society, systems, media, politics, and expectations no longer hold power over your mind. You don't just see things on the surface anymore, you see through them. What once confused or controlled you has lost its grip. That's because your inner truth has grown louder than the world's noise, like a steady drum beneath the chaos. You are no longer ruled by fear-based control systems. Fear may still exist around you, but it doesn't live in you anymore. You no longer absorb the anxious energy of the world like a sponge. You don't respond to the fear-mongering headlines, the emotional manipulation from others, or the invisible pressure to conform. You've unplugged from the frequency of fear and tuned yourself into the higher vibration of truth. Now your compass is clarity, not panic. Your guide is intuition, not anxiety. Even when fear stands close, it can't enter your inner sanctuary. The way you make decisions has changed entirely. You're no longer swayed by peer pressure, social approval, or programmed reactions planted by society. Instead, your choices emerge from a deep inner alignment. You know when something feels off, even if everyone else calls it normal. In those moments you pause, you reflect, you breathe, and you listen to that quiet voice inside whispering, "This isn't right for me." And then you act. You walk away without guilt. You say no without explanation. You protect your peace like it's sacred, because now you understand that it truly is. Seeing through illusion also means seeing through fear itself. You've realized that most fear is manufactured an energetic fog designed to distract you from your own power. A mist that looks solid until you step through it. But you have walked through that fog and found clarity on the other side. And with that clarity comes freedom. You no longer live in reaction mode. You live with intention. You no longer chase safety and approval outside yourself. You find safety in presence, in your own energy, in the unshakable knowing of who you are and who you were sent here to be. The most powerful shift is this. You no longer believe the world outside of you has more authority than the truth inside of you. That realization changes everything. You're no longer searching. You're embodying. You're no longer waiting. You're moving. What once scared you now fuels you. What once confused you now empowers you. This is the quiet power of embodiment. The illusions fell away, and what remained was your power, your vision, your voice. And now you use that power. You speak even when it's uncomfortable. You stand tall when the world wants you to shrink. You live from the soul, not from the script. This is what happens when awakening ends. It transforms into embodiment. You don't just talk about light anymore. You become the light. And that light exposes everything false. Not to shame others, but to awaken them too. Because when one chosen one sees through illusion, the energy ripples outward. When one soul stops fearing fear, it shifts the atmosphere for many. When you choose truth over comfort, you show others what's possible. You didn't come here to be passive. You came here to break patterns, to radiate higher frequencies, to manifest a reality rooted in love, sovereignty, and spiritual wisdom. You came here to see through the dark and still choose the light. And now, you are doing exactly that. Sign 7. You feel a strong call to step into your mission. You no longer think about your purpose as an abstract idea. You feel it vibrating through every part of your being. It's not a mental exercise or a philosophical question anymore. It's a living truth that wakes with you in the morning and follows you into the night, like a steady heartbeat. You feel called not by logic, but by something sacred and beyond words. This pull isn't casual or convenient. It's urgent, divine, and unmistakable a summons that refuses to be ignored. You're no longer seeking signs because the feeling itself is the sign. It lives in your gut, in your chest, in your bones. The days of observation are over. Watching, waiting, analyzing these no longer satisfy your soul. A restlessness has grown inside you, not from lack, but from fullness. You've learned, you've healed, you've awakened, and now that wisdom wants to become action. You can't stay still. You weren't built to stay still. There's a fire rising inside of you that won't be tamed by passivity or hesitation. It flickers brighter with each moment you deny it, until it becomes impossible to ignore. You're ready to step forward, not because you know every detail of the path, but because the silence of inaction has become louder than the fear of failure. Even without certainty, you feel ready, as if the ground beneath your feet is whispering, "Move now." You may not have all the steps laid out, but you can already sense the direction. You may not have perfect clarity or external validation, but something in you knows this is the moment, the turning point that everything before was preparing you for. You've stopped asking for permission and started walking with intention. You're no longer looking for external proof. You've become your own confirmation. The knowing within you is stronger than the questions around you, and even in uncertainty, you are grounded in trust. That trust is your foundation, a steady current carrying you forward when logic cannot. That inner fire is your compass, glowing brighter each time you choose courage over comfort. Every day, the mission calls to you louder, like a drumbeat in your chest, and you no longer ignore it. You understand now that being chosen doesn't mean being perfect. It means being willing to show up, willing to risk, willing to be seen even when it's uncomfortable. You're no longer just a student of awakening. You are the embodiment of its completion. You've shifted from absorbing light to radiating it. You've stopped consuming truth and started living it. This is your moment of transition, your turning point from the seeker to the one who serves. What once felt like a distant calling now feels like a command from the soul, not a suggestion, but an instruction. You don't need all the answers. You need only to take the next faithful step. You were never meant to awaken just to stay awake. You were meant to awaken so you could rise, lead, heal, and create. The time is no longer someday. The time is now. As we uncover these 7 signs, take a moment to honor how far you've come on your spiritual path. Your presence here shows you're not just awakening, you're evolving. This journey is no longer about information. It's about embodiment, action, and trust. comment below. My awakening is complete, and I am ready to live in truth. Let this be your affirmation as you step into your highest self. Your awakening was never the end. It was the beginning of your true purpose, the spark before the flame. Now it's time to embody everything you've learned and use your gifts with confidence. The world needs your light more than ever. Your calm in the chaos, your clarity in the noise. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more powerful insights. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of your soul's journey. Your time is now. Step forward. Shine boldly. Carl Jung's warning about empaths, it's darker than you think. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will continue to direct your life from the shadows, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. At Spiritual Wisdom, we believe that awakening always begins with awareness, with that first, sometimes uncomfortable, glimpse beneath the surface. And for empaths, that awareness often feels like both a gift and a burden, a doorway to deeper truth, but also a mirror reflecting pain most people never dare to look at. In this video, we'll explore Carl Jung's deeper and more unsettling warning about the empathic path truths that are rarely spoken, yet urgently needed. These insights aren't just abstract theory. They're a mirror to help you navigate your own emotions, protect your sacred energy, and grow into your highest self without losing your center. As you watch, ask yourself, how has your empathy shaped your relationships and your identity? Where has it lifted you, and where has it exhausted you? Share your reflections in the comments, and let's awaken together, learning not just to feel, but to discern. 1. Empathy is an archetypal, not just emotional, gift. True empaths are not merely emotionally sensitive individuals. They are psychic conduits through which unseen forces pass, often carrying what others can't. While modern culture paints empathy as a soft, gentle gift, Carl Jung's deeper insight reveals something far more complex, even dangerous if misunderstood. The empath does not simply feel with others. Instead, they absorb emotional energy like a sponge, unknowingly channeling the unresolved pain of others, the tension of the collective, and even the echoes of ancestral trauma buried in the unconscious. This isn't sentimentality. This is soul work. Empathy, in its truest form, is archetypal. It belongs not to the ego, but to the timeless realm of the unconscious. Jung understood that empaths are intimately connected to powerful universal patterns that stretch far beyond their personal experience. They are tapped into the undercurrent of humanity's unspoken sorrow and collective memory. And this is why their burden is so heavy. They may feel grief without cause, carry anxiety that doesn't originate in their own life, or wake with dread that belongs to the emotional atmosphere of society itself. This capacity to feel deeply and widely isn't always a blessing. Empaths often suffer because they don't know where their emotions end and another's begin. They walk through the world absorbing the invisible, caught in a subtle battle between light and shadow that most people don't even realize is happening. This is not a gift for the faint of heart, and it is rarely acknowledged for the spiritual weight it carries. Without awareness, the empath may drown in what they carry. But with spiritual wisdom, they learn to navigate the tides, to hold space without being consumed. What's most dangerous is that the world doesn't often recognize the true empath. Instead of seeing a sacred mirror, society labels them as too emotional, too sensitive, or too dramatic, never realizing they're glimpsing a reflection of their own hidden wounds. In truth, the empath is reflecting what others can't bear to see in themselves. Their energy exposes repression. Their presence stirs buried pain. And that's why many people unconsciously reject them, not because of who they are, but because of what they awaken. Spiritual wisdom teaches that energy must be discerned, not just felt. And this is the empath's task: to learn what is theirs to carry and what is not, to honor their gift without losing themselves, to transform burden into power and presence. This requires deep boundaries, not walls, but intelligent filters that allow clarity to pass and distortion to be blocked. Without this skill, the empath inevitably becomes a dumping ground for the collective shadow, a vessel that holds what the world refuses to face. But when mastered, their sensitivity becomes a superpower, a refined instrument of perception that cuts through illusion and reveals truth. Not for attention, not for approval, but for alchemy. The empath is not here to be comfortable. They are here to transform pain into presence, emotion into awareness, darkness into light. That's the deeper role Jung pointed to, not the romanticized image of an empath as simply kind and caring, but the archetypal vessel capable of turning raw energy into wisdom. And if one does not understand this role, they risk being consumed by it, swallowed by the very emotions they were meant to transmute. But when understood through the lens of spiritual wisdom, empathy becomes something else entirely. Not a burden, but a sacred path, a calling. Have you ever felt emotions that didn't seem to belong to you? Like you were carrying the weight of something ancient or collective, as if grief older than your lifetime sat on your chest? If so, share your experience in the comments below, so others can feel seen too. And if you're just beginning to explore your empathic gift, type "I'm open to understanding" so we can walk this path of spiritual discovery together. 2. Unconscious empathy leads to possession and self-loss. When empaths operate unconsciously, they don't just feel other people's emotions, they become entangled in them, caught in invisible threads they cannot see. Without clear boundaries, they absorb emotional pain like a sponge, often mistaking it for their own, slowly blurring the line between mine and theirs. They carry the weight of unresolved trauma, shadows, and psychic debris that never belonged to them. This isn't simply compassion, it's energetic possession. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For the unaware empath, this fate shows up as emotional confusion, chronic fatigue, and the gradual erasure of self. Their identity begins to blur. Their center becomes unstable, and they live in a state of constant emotional flooding, like a mirror that reflects every wound, but forgets its own face. This merging of energies is dangerous because it pulls the empath into other people's inner chaos, leaving them haunted by emotions that aren't theirs to carry. These disturbances don't remain hidden. They surface in dreams, mirrors that twist their reflection, caves that trap them in darkness, ghost-like figures symbolizing energies that beg for release. These are not just poetic images. They are the language of the unconscious trying to speak, sending signals through symbols and sensations. They reveal a life lived too much for others, a self that has been eclipsed, dimmed under the weight of unprocessed pain. The empath becomes a silent witness to suffering, yet internally cries out for boundaries that were never taught. And so the spiritual burden deepens, layer by layer. True spiritual awakening begins not with more feeling, but with more awareness. It is not about absorbing endlessly, but about learning what to let go, about discerning between responsibility and resonance. The empath must awaken to the fact that their ability to feel is not a curse, but neither is it a blank check to carry everyone's suffering. They must stop confusing love with self-sacrifice, and instead embody discernment. The wisdom to know what is theirs to hold and what is theirs to release. This awakening demands inner work, grounding, energetic boundaries, and the courage to confront patterns of over-responsibility. It is only when the empath reclaims their energy that real healing begins to unfold. Spiritual awakening is the process of returning to the self, not the role, not the mask, not the emotional caretaker, but the soul behind it all, the quiet essence that has been waiting to breathe freely again. The empath must learn to stand still in their own truth, without flinching, without shrinking, without merging into what others want them to be. As Rumi said, "Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure." For the awakened empath, that cure arrives in the moment they finally stop rescuing others at the cost of abandoning themselves. It feels like a deep exhale after years of holding their breath. They don't stop loving, but they stop leaking. They don't stop caring, but they stop collapsing under the weight of others' expectations. They become clear vessels of light rather than foggy mirrors reflecting everyone else's sorrow. And in that clarity, they don't just survive. They rise visibly, powerfully, unmistakably. If this message resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. 3. Childhood trauma and ancestral pain shape the empath's identity. Many empaths don't become sensitive because they were born that way. They become empaths because they had to. In chaotic or emotionally unstable homes, they learned early on that tuning into others was a matter of safety, not a matter of choice. This wasn't a gift at first. It was survival, a silent skill honed under pressure. A child who has to monitor their parents' every mood to avoid punishment or rejection will grow up to become an adult who scans every room for danger, even if it's emotional. What looks like intuition is often the refined skill of reading people, developed under tension, under fear, under silence. This sensitivity may seem instinctive, but it began as vigilance. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." For empaths, this could not be more true. Many are driven by unconscious wounds from the past, shaped by experiences they could not control. Worse still, it's not just personal trauma they carry. It's ancestral, the grief, the shame, the unresolved pain of previous generations passed down quietly through behaviors, emotional suppression, and spiritual disconnection. Empaths are often the ones in the family system who feel it all, who absorb what others deny, who hold the unspoken stories in their bodies. But without healing, that gift becomes a weight, a silent burden. They feel everything, yet understand very little of where it comes from, and the result is exhaustion, confusion, and self-neglect. Take the example of a woman named Sarah. As a child, she lived in a home where her father was kind one moment and emotionally cold the next, unpredictable as a shifting tide. To survive, she learned to become hyper-aware. She could sense when to speak, when to disappear, and when to comfort others at the expense of herself. That gift earned her praise later in life. People loved her empathy, her warmth, her ability to get them, to anticipate their needs before they voiced them. But beneath the admiration, she was still carrying patterns born from survival, not freedom. But what they didn't see was the cost. Behind that emotional radar was a little girl who had never learned how to turn it off, who carried the invisible weight of every unspoken tension in her home. Like many empaths, Sarah was living in reaction to her past, not in connection with her present. Every smile she gave, every need she anticipated, was shaped by survival. Carl Jung called this pattern the archetype of the wounded healer, those who seek to mend others while silently avoiding their own pain. Many empaths unconsciously fall into this same pattern. They don't just help others out of compassion, they do it out of compulsion, almost as if their nervous system is programmed to soothe the world around them. They believe that by fixing the outside world, they'll somehow feel whole inside. But this is a trap, a cycle that repeats endlessly. Because empathy without boundaries is not love. It is self-abandonment, and self-abandonment leaves the heart aching in silence. And when empathy becomes a reflex, not a conscious choice, pourquoi? It drains you. You give and give until there is nothing left, until your reflection in the mirror feels like a stranger. Then you wonder why you feel invisible, why your soul feels unseen. The truth is, healing begins when you stop making your empathy a job and start making it a sacred choice. You don't owe the world your exhaustion. You owe yourself restoration, rest, and renewal. You don't need to carry the pain of every person you meet to prove your worth. Your sensitivity is sacred, but it was never meant to be used as a shield or a burden. It was meant to guide you like a compass, not enslave you like chains. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches us that the shadow we don't face becomes the life we unconsciously live. If your empathy was shaped in trauma, then reclaim it through awareness, step by step, breath by breath. Turn it from a reaction into a sacred practice. Learn to feel without losing yourself. This isn't about feeling less. It's about feeling wisely, about knowing when to lean in and when to step back. Do you feel this truth in your bones? Do you recognize how your gift could become your healing? If you do, declare it boldly in the comments. I am healing generations through my empathy. 4. The shadow side of empathy must be confronted. Empathy can sometimes be a quiet disguise for the ego. Beneath the surface of care, there often lies a deep, unspoken need to be seen as important, to be irreplaceable, to be the one others cannot do without. This craving to help can become less about love and more about control, and what appears as compassion can actually be a silent strategy to escape our own wounds. Carl Jung understood this paradox deeply, that even our most admired traits carry a shadow side. When we give endlessly, we may tell ourselves it's because we care, but sometimes we give because we are afraid to look within, afraid to sit with our own emptiness. Overhelping becomes a pattern. It looks like love, but it's laced with fear. Fear of not mattering unless we're needed. Fear of being forgotten if we are not endlessly giving. It is, at its core, the avoidance of our own inner pain by focusing on fixing everyone else. And when this happens, empathy no longer serves healing. It serves ego survival. We become emotionally entangled, mistaking sacrifice for virtue and self-erasure for devotion. In truth, we are often trying to soothe ourselves by saving someone else. This kind of empathy is exhausting. It drains the soul because it is not rooted in wholeness, but in fragmentation. We overextend. We absorb pain that is not ours to carry. We merge so deeply with others' suffering that we forget who we are. And the deeper tragedy is that in trying to be everything for everyone, we slowly disappear. What we call compassion becomes a mask we wear, a mask that hides our own unmet needs. Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom urges us to step back, not to stop caring, but to care consciously. The true empath does not rescue to avoid loneliness. They do not absorb to feel worthy. They do not give endlessly just to be loved. Instead, they learn to hold space without losing themselves. They recognize the quiet moments when their helping is actually hiding. They set energetic boundaries not out of coldness, but out of clarity. To someone on the outside, it may look like distance, but in truth, it is alignment. Because empathy without boundaries becomes codependency. Compassion without awareness becomes emotional manipulation. This is the dark side that must be acknowledged, the shadow most people refuse to face. And yet, it is only when we confront these truths that our empathy transforms into power, authentic, sustainable power. Not the power to fix others or control outcomes, but the quiet, steady power to remain rooted in our own center while still offering love. Jung teaches us that everything we do, even the acts we consider good, must be examined through the lens of self-awareness. Why? Because healing isn't about giving all of ourselves away until we are empty. It's about becoming whole within, so that what we offer to others is clean, free, and conscious, untainted by hidden motives or unspoken wounds. The real spiritual wisdom is this: empathy is not just about feeling what others feel. It's about knowing, with unshakable clarity, when the feeling isn't yours to hold. That recognition is what turns suffering into wisdom. If you are ready to confront the shadow side of your empathy and reclaim your true self, then declare it now. Comment below: I choose truth over illusion. Let this affirmation be a doorway, and let us walk this path of self-awareness together. 5. True empathy requires boundaries and inner strength. Because true empathy is not about becoming a sponge for other people's emotions. It is not about soaking in pain until you can no longer tell where their suffering ends and your own begins. That is not compassion. It is emotional fusion. Real empathy is different. It is the art of witnessing without merging, of holding space for another soul while remaining anchored in your own. It's the ability to say with presence and love, I feel you, but I am not you. And that single sentence marks the beginning of a spiritual awakening. Because to awaken is not simply to feel more. It is to see more clearly, to recognize where your energy ends and someone else's begins. Without that clarity, empaths are not gifted. They are exhausted, drained, and dissolved into the chaos of the world around them. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That acceptance includes the part of you that wants to help, heal, and hold everyone, but also the part of you that must learn to say no. Boundaries are not selfish. They are sacred. They are the spiritual muscles forged through discernment and self-trust. A sponge absorbs everything indiscriminately, but a sovereign vessel chooses what it allows in. An empath who has awakened is no longer a victim of energy. They are a guardian of it. Sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a raw perception, a finely tuned antenna. But when left untrained, it becomes suffering, confusion, and burnout. You cannot save others by losing yourself. Empathy without grounding becomes self-erasure. But empathy with inner strength becomes a force of profound healing. You don't need to become harder. You need to become clearer. Clear about your limits. Clear about your role. Clear that your purpose is not to carry everyone's weight, but to hold truth steady when others have forgotten it. This is the path from sponge to sovereign, the journey from drowning in emotion to becoming a vessel of divine clarity. It is spiritual wisdom in action, the awakening of selfhood, not the denial of it. And the more you know yourself, the less likely you are to confuse someone else's chaos for your responsibility. The world doesn't need more people who feel everything. What it truly needs are people who feel deeply, yet still remain grounded and rooted in their center. That is true empathy. That is the essence of spiritual awakening. It is the difference between being swept away by every storm and becoming the calm within it. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on transforming empathy from emotional overload into grounded strength and sacred boundaries. 6. Conscious empathy is alchemical and transformative. When an empath awakens, something profound takes place, something that shifts their entire way of being. They stop being overwhelmed by the emotions of others and instead begin transmuting that pain into wisdom. Just as ancient alchemists turned base metal into gold. No longer a passive vessel carrying the suffering of the world, the conscious empath becomes a living mirror, not of wounds, but of possibility and renewal. They begin to reflect strength, insight, and clarity instead of merely absorbing confusion and emotional weight. This is the alchemical power of conscious empathy, the same principle Carl Jung hinted at when he wrote, "Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people." For the awakened empath, the darkness does not consume, it illuminates. Instead of rushing to rescue others and losing themselves in the process, they learn to hold space with grace and presence. They guide not through control or sacrifice, but through steady presence. They love without attachment, without draining their spirit. Their empathy no longer burns them out. It becomes a light that illuminates the way for others to find themselves. Jung understood that the unconscious drives most human behavior, and so when a conscious empath reflects someone's truth back to them, they gently disrupt the patterns that keep that person asleep. Their presence alone can awaken hidden potential because they themselves have awakened. This form of empathy demands deep inner strength. It is not soft in the sense of fragility. It is sharp, precise, and firmly rooted. It is the kind of empathy that sees through projection, through manipulation, through masks and performances, revealing what lies beneath. A conscious empath can feel everything yet remain centered, like a tree that bends with the wind but does not break. They've learned the essential truth. Not every emotion they sense belongs to them. And not every soul in pain is theirs to heal. Consider Jenna, for example, a nurse and a natural empath. For years, she absorbed the pain of her patients, carrying it home each night. Exhaustion became her daily reality, and she believed this fatigue was simply the price of being a good person. But after stumbling upon Carl Jung's writings and beginning to examine the unconscious roots of her behavior, Jenna experienced a shift. She realized that her empathy had silently turned into martyrdom. She began creating boundaries, not as walls to push others away, but as sacred containers to preserve her own energy. She learned the art of balance, how to feel without drowning, how to love without losing herself. She stopped identifying with pain and started channeling it into presence. And the result? Today she still feels deeply, but she no longer collapses under the weight of it. She reflects strength because she has claimed her own. Her empathy no longer enslaves her, it empowers her. Empathy without consciousness is chaos, but empathy fused with self-awareness becomes spiritual clarity. It transforms reactive emotion into intentional connection, guiding both the empath and those around them toward healing, truth, and light. It stops being about taking on the burdens of others and starts being about illuminating the truth within them. This is what Carl Jung meant when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." True empathy is not endless sacrifice. It is transmutation, the ability to turn pain into presence and heaviness into light. And when you finally learn to feel everything without losing yourself, when you choose presence over performance, you don't just heal. You become the healer. You don't carry the weight of the world anymore. Instead, you carry the light that helps others recognize their own. Imagine what it means to walk into a room not drained by its energy, but radiating clarity so that others can see themselves more honestly. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a comment of intention. I choose conscious empathy. I transmute pain into light. And don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on walking this path with clarity, strength, and love. 7. The journey requires individuation and daily self-awareness. The empath's path is not merely about feeling deeply, it is about becoming radically self-aware. Carl Jung never romanticized empathy. He recognized it as a profound psychic function, one that, if left unchecked, could easily slip into distortion, projection, and exhaustion. The true journey of the empath is the process of individuation, the lifelong work of becoming whole through conscious self-reflection, shadow integration, and inner alignment. To walk this path is to commit to a daily discipline of asking, "Is this mine?" At first glance, it seems like a simple question, but in truth, it holds immense spiritual weight. Without asking it, the empath risks carrying burdens that never belonged to them in the first place. This question creates a pause, a sacred gap in time, where the empath can choose sovereignty over absorption, clarity over confusion. It is in that moment that spiritual wisdom begins to take root. Empathy becomes conscious rather than compulsive. You no longer assume every feeling is yours to carry. Instead, you learn to feel with discernment, with clarity, with healthy boundaries. And this is not coldness, it is a sacred responsibility. Jung warned that when we avoid the work of individuation, we inevitably project our unhealed parts onto others. Empaths, by their very nature, become mirrors for that projection. They absorb unresolved pain, guilt, or shame that others unconsciously disown. And the result? Emotional overload, spiritual fatigue, and a slow erosion of the self. That is why individuation is not optional. It is essential. It's not about detaching from the world, but about anchoring more deeply into your own truth. Emotional honesty becomes your compass, not just in relationships, but also within your own inner world. You stop abandoning yourself to maintain the comfort of others. You stop confusing spiritual martyrdom with genuine compassion. Gradually, you begin to see that being an empath was never about being everything for everyone. It was always about becoming whole for yourself. And the more whole you become, the more grounded your empathy feels. It shifts from reaction to presence, from chaos to clarity. Your intuition sharpens like a finely tuned instrument. Your energy stabilizes, no longer tossed by every passing wave. You become the calm center in a world overflowing with noise and distraction. That is the true gift of spiritual wisdom. It doesn't numb your sensitivity. It hones it, shapes it, and elevates it into conscious strength. It teaches you that your light isn't meant to be a lifeline for everyone drowning. Instead, it is meant to be a beacon, a steady flame showing others what self-possession, self-respect, and integrity truly look like. The empath who walks the path of individuation no longer asks, "How do I save everyone?" but instead begins to ask, "How do I stay true to myself in every interaction?" That subtle shift changes everything. It moves the focus from external rescue to internal alignment, from scattering energy outward to embodying presence inward. And this is not selfishness. It is sacred alignment. Because when you learn to honor your own energy, you no longer leak it into people, places, and problems that are not yours to heal. You begin to trust that your presence, your clarity, your truth, without constant overextension, is more than enough. From that place of integrity, you stop surviving empathy as if it were a burden, and instead begin to embody it with grace, with quiet power, and with lasting peace. If this message resonates with your soul, don't hesitate. Leave a like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful insights like this. And in the comments, declare your intention. I commit to my daily journey of self-awareness and soul alignment. Let that affirmation remind you that being an empath is not just about feeling deeply. It is about carrying unseen burdens, navigating invisible forces, and walking a path that few truly understand. Carl Jung's warning reminds us that the gift of sensitivity is also a responsibility, a spiritual calling to face what others deny, to witness what others avoid. So if this message spoke to your soul, don't keep it locked inside. Like this video, share it with those who need to hear these truths, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more guidance on this sacred path. And most importantly, turn on notifications so you never miss another insight that could transform your inner world and strengthen your journey. Your path is not ordinary, it is sacred. And you don't have to walk it alone. Let's walk it together.